Good morning, everybody. As y'all coming in, put your locations in the comments and let's get to it. Locations in the comments, everybody. Locations in the comments, everybody. Put your locations in the comments and we'll get started in a moment. Let's make sure we got Facebook going. We are live on Rumble. Good morning, Rumble. Live on YouTube. Live on LinkedIn. Let me check and make sure we are active on X. We are live on X. We are getting Facebook re-engaged. For whatever reason, Facebook gives me a hiccup once every week or two. So we'll see if we get Facebook going here properly. My name on LinkedIn, X, Rumble, and YouTube is at Dre All Day. We are live on Instagram at Dre Baldwin, and we are live on TikTok at Work on Your Game. King Works from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good morning. Today we're going to talk about the Epstein files release. Did y'all know that the Epstein files got released? How many of you knew? Give me a yes or a no if you knew that the Epstein files got released. The Epstein files that everybody was talking about, that Congress did a whole vote to make sure the files got released. Did y'all know that these Epstein files got released? Y'all notice that it's not really news and nobody's talking about it? And I told y'all exactly what was going to happen. I told y'all what was going to happen with the Epstein files, but a bunch of you and a bunch of other people said Epstein files, Epstein files, Epstein files. Okay, we got the Epstein files. I told y'all what was going to happen. What happened is exactly what I said was going to happen, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the. Let me not even give it away, but we're going to talk about it. So as y'all coming in, put your locations in the comments. KingWorks21 over there on Instagram. Shout them out. The first comment. Let's see who's here over here on TikTok. Then we'll get started. Leah checking in from Tifton, Georgia. Congrats on the first comment. Leah for coming in first. Let's give you a round of applause for being the first one in. Let me get my soundboard fired up. Congrats to Leah with the first comment. Wild Cherry Entertainment, my favorite podcast, checking in from Savannah, Georgia. Thank you. I don't even consider this a podcast, but I guess we'll call it a podcast. Is all y'all call it a podcast. So I guess I got two podcasts because I have another one that comes out on Apple and Spotify every day. It's called Work on Your Game. It's about 20 minutes per episode. For those of you who want something you can listen to, you want to catch more of my material outside of this. Leah, thank you for the heart. Me and the Go Popular. Ron Johnson, Lima, Ohio. Daryl Taylor from Augusta, Georgia. I've been to Augusta. Shout out to Augusta. Shout out to the Masters. Carol Ann Collins from Newburgh, New York. Echoes from icy Pennsylvania. Is it snowing out there? Shout out to the places where it's snowing. Stuart Winslow from Rock Hill, South Carolina. Liz Pell said, enjoy your grift. Is that supposed to be gift, like a Christmas gift, or grift, like I'm grifting, scamming? Which one do you mean there? I don't know if that's a typo or you meant that how you spelled it. Linda Gale, good morning from St. Louis, said you look sharp today. Thank you. I appreciate that, Linda. Irma V, good morning. Nurse J. Beezy said, locked in, bro. I'm glad you are locked in, Nurse J. Beezy. Shout out to everybody who was locked in this morning. Echoes. Oh, no, that wasn't me. Nurse J. Beezy said, FB. What's FB? I don't know what that is. SOS looks like you're typing in French. I don't know what that says. Andrea, leave it. Tupin checking in from Massachusetts. Good morning. Wild Cherry Entertainment, thanks for the share. So a bunch of you did hear about the Epstein files getting released. Great. Marlene Lisa said you mean the Trump files were unredacted, and a good part is simple to do. All right, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Nurse J. Beasy says Chicago is in the house. Shout out to Chicago. Miss Vicky T from North Carolina. Terica Martin, thank you for the heart. Daytona Beat said heavily redacted garbage. Suzanne Freeman Bird said that. Debbie, good morning. Irma V from South Texas. Round, hello. Dwayne Mitchell, Detroit is in the house. Echo said, wintry mix, ice, ice, baby. Be careful on the roads out there. Nathan Don said, sharp is an understatement. Thank you, Nathan Don. Spin said, good morning, checking in from chilly Chicago. So it looks like it's cold everywhere right now. Nurse J. Beasy said, what's your Facebook? Facebook / Work on Your Game University. Work on Your Game University. Or just type in my name. Just type in my name, Dre Baldwin, because that's the name, that's the URL. But if you just type my name in, DRE, last name is BALDWIN, you'll see me come up. And I kind of look how I look right now. So you'll be able to tell by the picture. All It's Fake said, is there a bad echo for anyone else? I hope not, because nothing I can do about it. Marky Man checking in from Sacramento. Good morning. Gen X Halls checking in from Toledo, Ohio. Shout out to Toledo. A lot of Ohio representatives in here. Irma V, thank you for the bubbly time. Suzanne says 67 and beautiful in Daytona. It's pretty nice in South Florida. It's about 70 this morning. Nurse J. Beasy, good morning. So the Epstein files. First of all, I told y'all what was going to happen. All right, I told y'all this was going to happen. I told y'all that after Congress voted on this and Donald Trump decided to sign it, all right, we'll put out the files. I told y'all what was going to happen, that the files are going to be heavily redacted. They're going to cover up a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of stuff's going to be blacked out. They're going to put out another release of the files, quote unquote. It's going to be a whole bunch of nothing. It's going to be nothing in there useful, i.e. nothing about Donald Trump, and nobody's going to give a damn, and it's going to pretty much blow over, and the story will go away within like a day because it's not going to be shit to talk about. But we're going to talk about it because y'all wanted to talk about this. So this is your punishment for caring about the Epstein files, is that we're going to talk about it here today. All right, so all y'all get the punishment of us having to talk about this because y'all want to talk about this shit. I told y'all nothing was going to come out of this. And the reason why nothing's going to come out of it is because there are several legal defenses for not releasing these files. First of all, you had a whole bunch of victims involved, and you can't re-traumatize the victims by putting out files that now have their names in it and things that may have necessarily happened to them. And now they got to answer more questions about what happened to them when they probably don't want to talk about it anymore. That's one big reason. Another reason is the government has control of the files. And if the government doesn't want to show certain people or implicate certain people, they won't do it. You think the government answers to you, and theoretically they do. The government does not answer to you. The government does what it wants to do. And if y'all haven't gotten that message by now, again, I got some beachfront property in Wyoming to sell to you. The government does what they want to do. They do not answer to you. And if you don't like the answers that the government is giving you, what the hell are you going to do about it? Answer is, it ain't damn thing you can do. And if there are files that could be unredacted and released, if the government does not want to put them out, they ain't putting them out. That's just what it is. So what happened about 4 days ago, the Department of Justice began releasing what it called the Epstein files, under this new thing, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. That's the act that just got signed a few weeks ago. Bipartisan law signed just a few weeks ago by Donald Trump to release all these records related to Jeff Epstein. So what file was not a single clean dump of material. What you got is, or what's going to be, a rolling release of tens of thousands of pages, many of them heavily redacted. Redacted is when you got lines and words and names blacked out. So you can't tell what it actually says, even though you see it saying something, but you can't read it. So it's a bunch of redacted files, in other words, a whole bunch of nothing, which I already told y'all was going to be. And a lot of mysteriously removed materials that, even though they put it out, is pages missing. There are pages missing, there's information missing. So the files did include, there were some photos, there were some emails, there were some investigator records, and a bunch of grand jury materials spanning over decades that people had to pour through all of this stuff to find anything useful. So it reignited public outrage, not over Jeff Epstein, but over the fact that there's nothing in there that people thought was going to be juicy. People are mad because you thought there was going to be something juicy in these files. I told y'all months ago, there's not going to be a damn thing in these files. Whatever we already know is all we are going to know. And no matter how much people keep talking about this, no matter how many acts or Congress votes on shit, nothing's coming out, ladies and gentlemen. Most people just want to see something about Donald Trump. They don't really care about the victims. They don't really care about who else might have been involved. Actually, 90% of people just want to see something about Donald Trump they can use against him. And then the other 10% is people just want to see some big name person that they can go quote unquote hold accountable for hanging with Jeff Epstein. I saw this video of Chris Tucker. He's the guy who plays Smokey in the movie Friday. He's an actor and comedian. He was in the Epstein files. Chris Tucker was in the Epstein files. You know what he was doing? Did y'all see this? Any of y'all know what Chris Tucker was doing in the Epstein files? Does anybody have an answer of what Chris Tucker was doing in the Epstein files? Because there's evidence of what he was doing. He actually talked about it. He was getting interviewed somewhere, and he responded to it. Y'all know what he was doing? Yeah, Wild Cherry Entertainment. So he was flying to Africa. He was on an airplane. So Chris Tucker was in the Epstein files. He had a picture with, I think it was a picture where he was next to Jeff Epstein. He had a picture where he was standing next to Ghislaine Maxwell with his arm around her. And somebody asked him about it. And he said, yeah, he was doing some kind of trip to Africa, some humanitarian trip or something like that. There's a bunch of people on the plane. He was one of the people on the plane. It was Jeff Epstein's plane. And he took pictures with Jeff Epstein. He never went to the island, he said, but he was on the plane because that's what he was doing. And the government, when the government raids your house or they seize documents from you, they take every single thing you got, everything. So there's a whole bunch of nothing burger material that the government took from Jeff Epstein that had nothing useful in it. It's just a bunch of stuff about whatever the hell he was doing. So if Jeff Epstein had 1,000 books in his library, those books are in the Epstein files. If Jeff Epstein has a bunch of pictures of him standing with his friends from his childhood or his adulthood where people were on his plane, because he rented out his plane for other people to use because he had a lot of friends out there, those are going to be in the Epstein files. But it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't prove anybody did anything wrong, and it's usually not going to be anything that is legally useful in these files. And again, if there was, why the hell would the Department of Justice give it to you? That's the question you really need to be asking. Ask yourself this question. If there's something inside these Epstein files, these mysterious Epstein files that the Department of Justice could use legally against somebody, why would they release it publicly? There's no legitimate answer to that question. That's the reason why you will never see it, because the government does not work for you. You think the government works for you. And theoretically, according to the framing of our country by our founding fathers, government is supposed to work for us and be by us and for us, but the government does not work for you. So again, as I said a few minutes ago, y'all want to talk about the shit, so we're going to talk about it. There's nothing here, but we're going to talk about the nothingness that is the Epstein files. So there's a bunch of grand jury materials. I already told y'all this. Accusations of a cover-up. So people are mad. People are mad on both sides of the political aisle because they thought there was going to be something here. There's nothing here. The bipartisan anger from politicians is all act. They knew it was nothing here. They know exactly what I just told y'all. They already known it. And people are accusing that this is a cover-up. Well, of course it's a fucking cover-up. This is what the government does. They cover up anything they don't want you to know. They don't tell you. If you want to call that a cover-up, fine. It's not a cover-up. It's we tell you what we want you to know up. That's what it's called. It's not a cover-up. It's we tell you what we want you to know, and what we don't want you to know, we won't tell you. We don't care what you ask us. We'll tell you what we want you to know, period. And what you going to do if you don't like it? What are you going to do? Answer is you ain't going to do a damn thing but get on the internet and complain about it. And that's it. That's where we're at. So no new criminal networks were revealed. Nothing explosive got revealed. The way this release has been handled is causing political crisis, allegedly. And people are mad about all of that. So let's get into that part, because that's actually more interesting than what was in the files, because it's not a damn thing in the files. Which, again, I told y'all months ago it wasn't going to be anything in the files. And I told you a few months after that it'd be nothing in the files. I told you a few weeks ago it'd be nothing in the files. And here I am telling you again today, there's nothing in the files. And if you looked at what got released, you saw for yourself, there's nothing in the files. And whatever they put out in the future, there will be nothing. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our job here is mastering communication, helping you master your communication, both external, that is what you put out to other people, internal, what you say to yourself, and also your observation and absorption of communication, meaning your understanding of what other people are saying, what they're not saying, and keeping in mind through all of this, 85% of communication is non-verbal. You really want to get your point across to other people, you have to master your nonverbal communication, not just the words that you say or memorizing scripts or what you write down, all that nonsense that people tend to focus on. That covers only 15% of communication. You want to get really good at communication, you got to master the stuff that is not being said. Most people are not even aware of it, let alone can you master it. But I can help you with that. Text the word power to the number in my profile. My number is 305-384-6894. Is down in the description or bio of my profile. On whichever app you're watching me on right now, we are live on 7 different platforms at this very moment. So the Department of Justice did release this unprecedented volume of Epstein-related material. Again, a lot of documents. They put out a lot of stuff. And it does matter because defenders can credibly argue that no previous administration has released this much material for this Epstein case. So technically, it is the largest disclosure to date. So technically, all of you Trump supporters or Trump attackers who want to say that Trump ran on releasing the Epstein files, he did not run on releasing the Epstein files. He ran on the economy and immigration. But if you want to say that he ran on the Epstein files, well, guess what? Here it is. Donald Trump's administration released more Epstein file material than has ever been released under any other presidential administration in the history of the United States of America. That is an absolute fact. So any of you want to criticize Trump by saying he ran on the Epstein files, okay, you can't use that anymore. He put out more Epstein files than anybody else. So there you have it. What can you complain about now? All right, he released the Epstein files. You got it. Nobody else did as much as he did. Now what? And this is where we're at. So what people are saying, though, is that the law that Donald Trump signed, or the bill he signed to turn into a law, explicitly forbids redactions for embarrassment or political sensitivity. So some say the redactions cause people to say that you're not complying with the law. I say that is very questionable, and you being the Department of Justice technically is not part of Trump's administration, but let's just say Trump. I say that that is highly subjective. So the law says that you can't redact anything. The redacting is when you black out lines and dates and information and names and stuff like that. You can't do it. You can't redact things for embarrassment or political sensitivity. But the DOJ could say we redacted this because of we don't want to expose a victim. So it becomes this judgment call of, are you redacting because of political sensitivity or embarrassment, or are you redacting because of it's a victim? And the bottom line is most people in Congress, and damn sure not Donald Trump, is going to go to the DOJ and say, hey, unredacted that line because we think that that's not a good enough reason. It is literally the Department of Justice. Who's their boss? Who's going to tell the Department of Justice what to do and what not to do? I ask you this question. Who's going to tell the Department of Justice what to do and what not to do when it comes to the Epstein files? Because they're the ones who get to make the final call as to what to redact and what not to redact. So when people saw the files and they say, hey, you redacted stuff and we think you redacted it because of political embarrassment, or you don't want us to put out something that's politically sensitive. And they say, well, no, we didn't do it for that reason. We did it. Anything that's redacted is because we want to protect the victims and protect any ongoing cases. And you say, well, we don't believe you. And they say, who cares what you believe? We're Department of Justice. What are you going to do? Again, I'm asked this question several times here today. What are you going to do if you don't like what they put out? And you think they redacted it for a different reason, but you don't know what got redacted. So you have no evidence. No evidence is the language they use against Candace Owens. You have no evidence that what they redacted is for the reason that you say. You only can go off of the reason that they say because they're the ones who saw the unredacted material. You didn't see it. So you have no idea what it is. So what are you going to do? Again, I ask this question, ladies and gentlemen. What are you going to do? John 1 said they are incompetent. They redacted wrongly. How do you know? How can you prove it? Where's your evidence? You can't answer any of those three questions. That's the problem. All right, that's the issue. And you can't answer any of those questions. How do you know? Where's your proof? How can you prove it? You can't answer any one of those questions. None of you can answer any of those questions. Sheila G said, U.S. Attorney General. Yeah, what about her? Pam Bondi, she's the Attorney General. What about her? She wasn't voted for. She was appointed by Donald Trump. And I think she's doing exactly what Donald Trump wants her to do. What do y'all think? I think she's doing exactly what Trump wants her to do. That's the reason why she still got a job. Please keep liking the live, everybody. We got 17,000 likes. Like the live, everybody. Like the live. Sheila said, you asked who was over the DOJ. Yeah, well, what I mean is who can tell the DOJ what to do? Pam Bondi is part of them. I mean, she's the Attorney General. She's basically part of their team. Who can tell them what to do? Pam Bondi, we already know where she stands when it comes to the Epstein files. She made it pretty clear several months ago when she was sitting next to guess who? President Donald Trump. You think she's going to do something Trump doesn't want her to do? I don't think so. What y'all think? So again, what's the recourse here? There is no recourse. It's literally the Department of Justice. Who's your recourse? Who you going to call? You going to call a lawyer? What are you going to do? Again, I'm going to say this 10 times today. I'm going to say it 50 times here today. So how many was that so far? About 10? I think about 8. Now, the release confirmed and documented Epstein's extensive proximity to powerful elites across politics, business, and entertainment. Yes, we know. We know Jeff Epstein was cool with a lot of people. We knew he was a money guy somehow, some way. According to what I've heard and read about Epstein, he wasn't even that good with the financial stuff, but allegedly he was this financial whiz who was managing money in hedge funds and he made all this money. But it looks like, from what I've heard a lot of people say and what I've read, that the guy wasn't even good at basic finance stuff. But all of a sudden, he's this billionaire financier with an island. And that leads into the conspiracies. Again, Candace Owens territory, conspiracies about who this guy really was and how he really got to where he was at. And there's a whole lot of questions about that, but that's not the topic here today. I'm bringing that up to say Epstein was cool with a lot of well-known people and well-connected people because he was known as this money guy who had connections, and he did have a private plane. And a lot of people like to fly private. They don't have their own plane, so they call Jeff, hey, let me borrow your plane. And clearly he was very friendly in either lending out or renting out his airplane for whatever reason. We don't know. He's not allowed to tell the story. We can only go off of what we want to guess about it. Now, even without new crimes being revealed, and there were none, and no new crimes are going to be revealed, the Department of Justice is not going to put out material that allows everyday people like you and me to discover a crime. It's not going to happen. So any of you who is anticipating that, please perish the thought and wake up from that dream. It's not happening. So even without new crimes being revealed, visual and documentary confirmation reinforces the public understanding that Jeff Epstein was deeply embedded amongst influential circles. I say, so what? Correlation does not prove causation. Just because you were standing next to Jeff Epstein does not mean you did anything negative or bad or illegal that Jeff Epstein was involved in. If you're going to say somebody did something illegal with Jeff Epstein, you must prove it. In the United States of America, you're innocent until proven guilty. So just because I'm standing next to somebody who did a crime does not mean I did a crime. If I did a crime, you got to prove it. You got to show your evidence. You got to take me to court. And then you got to prove it in court in front of a jury of my peers. That's it. And that applies to every single person who gets their name associated with Jeff Epstein, up to and including President Donald Trump. Now, no major new high-profile accomplices or criminal conspiracies were exposed. So it deflates public expectations of accountability. And I said this before, I will say it again. The public does not give a damn about accountability for the quote-unquote victims of Jeff Epstein's crime and Ghislaine Maxwell's crime. They don't really care. I don't think most of you who are listening to this really care about accountability for the victims of assault of a sexual nature. I don't think you really care about that. What you care about is, again, accusing somebody who's well known of doing something wrong and then seeing them get hung out to dry publicly. That's what people get excited about. People get excited to see a well-known person brought down. It's Schadenfreude is what it is. That's what people want to see. It has nothing to do with, I want to protect the victims. You want to protect the victims. What are you going to do? Again, what are you going to do to protect the victims of assault, of the Jeff Epstein crimes? You ain't going to do a damn thing. What you going to go make a post on TikTok? What's that going to do? Nothing. So again, this is all grandstanding by a whole lot of people. The moral high ground fallacy that a lot of people are using is, I want to protect the victims. Even people in Congress were saying this. I want to protect the victims. You don't give a damn about the victims. If you gave a damn about the victims, you wouldn't be posturing in front of cameras. You'd be actually on the ground doing real groundwork with your bare hands in 10 toes deep where the work actually gets done. Like the documentaries you see on National Geographic or on YouTube with people who, like, they work with people who are on street pharmaceuticals, street narcotics, people who get into the prostitution games and stuff like that and help them. Like, let me see if I can find a place for you to stay. Let me see if I can help you get a job. Those are social workers, people who do real community service social work. Those are people who are really trying to help the victims. Everybody else is just posting on the internet and playing a moral high card against other people and waving your finger and just playing a morality card at people. And some of you are exactly who I'm talking about. You ain't doing shit. You're posting on the internet. You ain't doing nothing. And the irony is not lost on me that I'm talking about this on the internet, but I'm not staying around talking about I care about the victims, because I don't. I'd be lying if I said I cared about the victims. I don't even know who the victims are. I don't want bad things to happen to them, but at the same time, I don't really care. I don't. I'm just being honest about it. See, many of you just need to get honest. You don't really care. What you care about is the sensational headline. I care about the sensational headline because I get to use it for content. That's what I care about. And see, I can just tell y'all the truth. See, many of you just need to start telling the truth. Come clean. Let's continue. Now, many Americans expected names, charges, or smoking guns. I don't know why. They were dreaming. They were watching Sesame Street before they went to bed last night. So they were dreaming about butterflies and rose gardens. There will not be any new charges. There will not be any names connected in any way that makes any sense. There will be no smoking guns. There will be none of this. The absence of those revelations made people suspicious that key information remains hidden. Well, this is wrong. That's a falsehood. that people have some expectation that just because Jeff Epstein got convicted of a crime and Ghislaine Maxwell got convicted of a crime, that anybody who was standing next to Jeff Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, they must have did a crime. And since we know Jeff Epstein was cool with a lot of people, then that must mean that as soon as we find out who he was dealing with, and there's some documentation of it, that it must mean that those people also committed a crime. That's a non sequitur. It does not follow. There's a logic fail there. There's a jump in logic there that says Jeff Epstein did a crime and Jeff Epstein was cool with a lot of people, which means the people he was cool with, they must have also did crimes. Fail. That's not true. So people who are expecting there to be some new key information to be released, and if you don't have the key information, that means that the United States government is just not giving it to you. Well, first of all, you're assuming that the information exists. How do you know the information exists? How do you know? How can you prove it? And if they don't give it to you, what are you going to do to get it? Again, these are 3 questions that I ask anyone in this audience to answer. How do you know? How can you prove it? And if they don't give it to you, what are you going to do? Does anybody have an answer to any one of those 3 questions? If you have answer number 1, put number 1 and give me an answer. You have answer number 2, put number 2, give me an answer. You have answer number 3, put number 3, give me an answer. We already got a law, an act, a bill passed through Congress, both sides of Congress, bipartisan. Donald Trump signed it. The DOJ put the material out. What are you going to do? What is your recourse? You going to call Saul? Better call Saul? You going to call him to help you? You going to call Johnny Cochran? Who are you going to call? What are you going to do? I'm waiting for someone to answer this question. Does anybody have an answer to the question? I'm just waiting. Anybody got an answer to the question? I'm not seeing any answers yet. So I'm assuming you don't have any. I'm assuming no one doesn't have any. Okay, let's continue. Bipartisan lawmakers. Again, these are people in Congress. Both sides of Congress voted for this. Both sides, the Democrat and Republican, House and the Senate, all seem to be on the same page with this, especially after Donald Trump said, go ahead and sign it. Go ahead and vote for it, Congress, Republicans. I will sign it. Donald Trump told them to. They signed it. I mean, they voted for it. He signed it. It became the law. Here it is. Many of the bipartisan lawmakers publicly condemned the DOJ's handling of this, signaling that this is not a partisan stunt. So they are condemning the DOJ's handling. Let me translate that for you. When people in Congress are condemning what the DOJ does, that's their way of letting you know there's not a damn thing they can do about it. That's why they're condemning it, because they can't do shit. All they can do is talk about it. No different than us getting on the internet and talking about it. Congress is no different than somebody on TikTok as of right now when it comes to the Epstein files and the DOJ. They did the only thing they could do, which is pass a law to get the files released. DOJ said, okay, we'll release the files. Here they are. And 90% of the material is blacked out. All right, that's what you get. And Congress cannot overrule the Department of Justice. They can't do it. So this is where we're at. And especially when, and technically they could, they have mechanisms for this, but especially when the Department of Justice can always say, we are redacting the files to protect the identity of the victims. And we want to keep the victims from being re-traumatized from what they have already gone through. So we are not redacting anything else in these files because it would re-traumatize some of the victims. So you folks in Congress, you all seem to be on a witch hunt trying to get at somebody politically, but do you want to expose these victims in the process of getting at the people you're trying to get at? We're not doing that. And at that point, the battle becomes a stalemate, and the DOJ has control over the files that Congress cannot win. There's no way Congress can overpower the DOJ when the DOJ's their position is we are not going to expose the victims. And if you, Congress, really cares about the victims, then you need to stop pushing for us to put out material that would expose them if you really care about them. See, now it becomes this duality, Kamala Harris' voice, this duality between what Congress says they're trying to do, which is protect the victims, but at the same time, you want to expose them because the DOJ can just use that frame against them. And what's Congress going to say? They have no recourse. Again, Congress does not have access to the files. All they can do is sign. They can create bills that become laws. They don't have access to the files. They don't decide what goes out and what doesn't. The Department of Justice decides that. This is the reason why we have branches of government. So it's really not anything they can do. That's the bottom line. So Ro Khanna, Thomas Massie, they agree that the DOJ failed in this case. I say, who the hell cares what they agree with? It doesn't really matter. No one cares what Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie have to say about what the DOJ did because they don't work in the Department of Justice. You're Congress people. You don't know that the DOJ failed because you don't know what got redacted. So this is the whole issue with this whole thing with all the Congress people and the everyday citizens is that everyone assumes that there is some top crazy information inside these files. And if you don't see the crazy information, that must mean they're not giving it to you. How do you know that there's some crazy information in these files? I need someone to answer that question. I answered for the third time today. How do we know there is something in these files that the DOJ is not showing us? Something that would basically, implicate some well-known person for a crime. How do we know? That must be proven, folks. You accuse somebody of a crime, you got to prove it. So people are saying, well, because you haven't given me the material that proves this guy did a crime, that must mean you're not giving me the material. Well, how are we so sure there is material? I'm waiting on an answer for that. If anybody has an answer. I don't think anybody has an answer. If somebody has an answer, let me know. All right, so I haven't seen it yet. So the DOJ, they technically missed the deadline and admitted the release would continue for weeks. So they're supposed to all come out by a certain deadline. They missed the deadline. DOJ ignored the deadline. And they ignored the clear timeline in the law. So the law clearly says you got to put out the material by a certain point. The DOJ completely ignored the timeline. So what did I just tell you about the Department of Justice? All right, they do what they want to do. And if they don't follow your laws, what you going to do? Who are you going to call if the Department of Justice violates you? Again, I asked this question. Are you going to call Saul? Better call Saul? Who are you going to call? Who are you going to call if you get violated by the Department of Justice? Judge Judy? Joe Brown, Judge Wapner, Johnny Cochran, who you gonna call? They do what they want to do, folks. This is the way the government works. This is why I tell you all over and over again, do not get emotionally engaged with what happens with the government, because eventually they're going to do something, or you're going to come to realize something that is not going to make you too happy. All right, so if you stay, what's the word I would use here? Detached. Emotionally detached from what the government does. Doesn't mean don't notice what they do. Just stay detached. I'm detached. That's the reason I can talk about it the way I talk about it, because I don't care. But those of you who get emotionally engaged, you get angry and upset about these things as if obviously you didn't know this is the way it works. This is the way it's been working, by the way. This is not new. Nothing that's happening now is new. This has been going like this for years. It's been going like this for decades. It's just some of you are just now realizing it. They do what they want to do. So that's the part that it may be disappointing some of you that you're just now figuring this out. All right. Missing the deadline weakens the trust and raises legal questions about whether DOJ officials are themselves in violation of federal law. Perhaps they are. But again, somebody in Congress would have to jump through some hoops in order to hold these people accountable. And again, still, the bottom line of this always is the DOJ can always say we are protecting the victims from re-traumatization and exposing them by unredacting things that you want unredacted. And again, how do the people in Congress know which parts to unredact and which parts not to unredact? They don't know. They would have to say, you got to show us everything unredacted and then let us decide. And the DOJ says, hell no, we don't have to do that. They would have to go through a huge legal battle to prove that, to get that argument to win over the DOJ and then get access to the files, all the people in Congress. Really? You think that's going to happen? What's your chances of 0 to 100% that happens? Anybody have any idea? Anybody got a guess? Let's ask Grok. Let's see if Grok can figure this out and tell me exactly how this works. I got a robo text by somebody who said, we're hiring an online advertising specialist. You work 1 to 2 hours a day. You can earn $100 to $600 a day with a guaranteed $1,000 a week. You get 15 to 20 days of paid time off per year plus public holidays. Fully remote with complete training required. So any of you want a job, I'll give you the text message number. Y'all can text these people back. I just got this robo text from, I don't know who this is. But anyway, let's find out what Grok says about this. Regarding the Epstein files release, if the DOJ is saying that they are trying to protect the victims from being re-traumatized or exposed, and people in Congress think that there is something being hidden by the DOJ, what recourse does Congress have to try to get those files unredacted, as far as being able to see them or taking them to court in some way, shape, or form? Do they have any other avenues for getting the files released without so much redactions as what just recently got put out? Or is this pretty much over because the DOJ has the final say? What could possibly happen here? All right, so I just asked Grok that question. Y'all heard the question. So let's see what Grok has to say. So the Epstein Files Transparency Act, we know about that. It allows limited redactions or withholdings primarily to protect victim identities. I already told you all that. ongoing investigations. I told you that, or also national security. That also must be mentioned because Epstein looked like he traveled internationally at different times as well. And it bars redactions for embarrassment or public sensitivity, which we already know. So it says it requires the DOJ to report to Congress on any redactions and a list of the named politically exposed persons. I don't know if they gave that list or not. So they begin releasing the documents with thousands of pages. We already know about that. So Congress's potential recourses. This is what I asked it about. Congress has several oversight tools to push for less redacted or complete releases. So this is what Congress can do right now. Though enforcement against the executive branch, especially under unified control, is often challenging and slow due to separation of powers. So the DOJ is controlled by the executive branch, i.e. the president. We know who the president is, right? So what are the chances that Congress is able to push this? This is basically have to go over the pushback of Donald Trump. That I highly doubt this ever happens. Now they could do subpoenas, demands for unredacted versions. So congressional committees, we've seen a few of them. Oversight, judiciary, Senate judiciary, they can issue subpoenas for unredacted documents or internal DOJ records. Now, the committee has done this before, and they released Epstein-related materials from the DOJ and the Epstein estate. If the DOJ complies partially, Congress could demand in-camera review or full access for committee members. So that could possibly happen next year. We'll see. Contempt of Congress. If the DOJ ignores the subpoenas, committees can vote to hold officials like Pam Bondi or Todd Blanche, he's the deputy AG, in contempt. So they can hold them in criminal contempt for prosecution because the DOJ would basically have to prosecute itself. That's not going to happen. Or inherent contempt, a rare direct power where Congress could fine or even detain officials. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie has discussed this, including drafting resolutions for daily fines. We'll see. Or civil contempt, which is the more common path. So a civil lawsuit. This would allow Congress standing to enforce subpoenas or statutory mandates. So Chuck Schumer introduced this in December this month. Courts could order fuller disclosure, though cases drag on. The DOJ might appeal on privilege grounds. The cases would drag on and on and on until all these people in Congress who are pushing for this, there'd be a new Congress, and this would basically get dropped. It would basically get slow walked until it never happens. That's what would happen. This would get dragged through the course all of 2026. Then the midterms happen, and then this whole thing would drop because you got a whole new Congress. Now, there could be committees holding hearings, grilling DOJ officials. I think that's going to happen. They would demand timelines and explanations. That's going to happen. And they can launch broader probes. Now, survivors and lawmakers have called for this. I think there will be investigations. There will be hearings and investigations. But a hearing and investigation doesn't mean you get to see any new information. You just get to see people get grilled while they're basically taking a stand and getting grilled by Senate committee members and Congress people. The House could impeach DOJ officials for noncompliance, but this is highly unlikely because to impeach them, you probably need some people who are against them, and the DOJ is basically Republican controlled, and the government is Republican controlled. The legislature is Republican controlled, so this is probably not going to happen. And there could be future prosecution. So a future DOJ could theoretically prosecute current officials for willful noncompliance. So this process is ongoing. Rock says it's not over. There are more releases coming out. There's still controversy. Like Massey, Mo Khanna getting mad about this. Survivor backlash over redactions, potentially shielding non-victims, i.e. people think it's Donald Trump. So if Congress pushes aggressively, they do subpoenas, they hold the DOJ in contempt, or they file a lawsuit, more unredacted material could emerge, especially for congressional review, that will not necessarily go public. And Congress will be restricted from actually telling you what they saw on some level. However, victim privacy is a legitimate legal barrier. This is the one that I said the DOJ can just lean on pretty much as they want. Courts often defer to agencies on redactions. Everybody heard what I just said? Courts often defer to agencies on redactions. The DOJ is the agency. If the DOJ says exposing this material would expose victims, the court will probably lean towards that over leaning towards what Congress wants, which is to put material out, because it looks like Congress, some people in Congress are just witch hunting, even the Republicans. So political will does matter. Unified government reduces escalation odds. So in other words, folks, so y'all don't understand what that means. A Republican president with a Republican legislature, majority Republican legislature, means it's highly unlikely this happens. Now, let's say the Democrats take over in the 2026 midterms. The problem is you still got a Republican president. So this probably couldn't happen until 2028. You would need a Democratic legislature and a Democratic president. And again, what's the chances of that happening? So that's 3 years from now if y'all want to get excited about this. In summary, Congress has real avenues: subpoenas, contempt lawsuits, to challenge redacted seats for access. Those successes are guaranteed and could take months or years. So this fight is technically not over, but at the same time, it is over. As Candace Owens likes to say, we don't know, but we know. All right, it's over. It's over. All right, take my word for this. If I end up being wrong, I'll do a live stream 3 years from now and let you know I was wrong. Or 4 years from now, probably, because it had to be 2029 when the new president, and it had to be a whole Democratic Congress. Now, some redactions were justified on victim privacy grounds, which remains a legitimate and necessary concern. So Epstein's crimes, there were real victims, and indiscriminate disclosure could further harm, giving the DOJ some defensible rationale. I think it's more than some. I think it's a lot. Now, entire documents were released as blank pages. There were 500 fully redacted files, which goes far beyond protecting victims. Again, how do we know this? So completely blank disclosures appear performative and strengthen claims that the release was designed to appear transparent without actually being so. I agree. This is not going to be transparent. This is a criminal investigation that involved underage victims. So it's not going to be completely transparent. And I find it just very ironic. So many people say that they want to protect victims of assault of a sexual nature, yet they're claiming they want all the files released that would re-traumatize and expose these very victims that you claim you want to defend. You're defending them by what? Finding out who did something to them so you can do what? Make a post on Facebook about it? What are you actually going to do? The Department of Justice are the ones who prosecute crimes. So if they look through all the files and they prosecuted who they prosecuted, what are you going to do? You're going to find a file, and what you're going to do? Call the Department of Justice and say, hey, why didn't y'all file a crime about this one? Do y'all think the Department of Justice is going to put themselves in that position? The answer is no, they're not. And they're not going to allow that to happen. The system is designed so that doesn't happen. Anyway, the files show no evidence implicating Donald Trump, which is what people really wanted. That's why nobody's talking about this. It counters some prior speculation. Yeah, of course it does. This undercuts claims the release was delayed to protect Trump specifically, complicating simplistic cover-up narratives. So nothing that came out implicated Donald Trump. Doesn't mean he's not in the files somewhere, someplace. He was probably on a plane a few times. But on the files they put out, they didn't even show him. If he's on anything, everybody would be talking about it. The fact that nobody's talking about it is how you know he wasn't on anything. So all of you don't need to read through the files to get released. Just wait until you see everybody talking about Donald Trump and Epstein, then you know he was in the files. If you don't see that, that means the files that came out, he wasn't involved. Now, the files and images were quietly removed from the DOJ website after publication with no clear explanation. So they put this stuff out, then they removed it right after, especially many images, and it deepens the public distrust and fuels accusations of selective editing. I say it's not an accusation. We know they selectively edited. We know. That's what a redaction is. You selectively edit the material before you put it out. So that's not an accusation. We have proof that the Department of Justice selectively edits the material that they put out to the rest of the world or to American citizens because, again, I'll say this for the 10th time here today, they do what they want to do. You think the government works for you. Technically, they do. Theoretically, they do. But in actuality, in reality, they do what they want to do. And we voted for this. And that's what it is. So even without new crimes being revealed, so people are still scrutinizing Epstein's original plea deals and prosecutorial failures. They say Epstein kind of got off easy with the way he was prosecuted and the charges he got and these sweetheart deals he got even before the major thing that he got arrested for. And the answer is, of course, he did. All of you have heard or maybe said or heard people say that if you have money and you have resources in the United States of America, you can get away with stuff that the person who is broke can't get away with. You've heard me say it. I did a 3-part series on my podcast called Stay Out of Court. Why? Because the legal system in America, the justice system in America is not based on fact or fiction. It's not based on truth. It is not based on innocence or guilt. It's based on if you have the resources to defend yourself or you have the resources to get somebody else, get a judgment against somebody else, let's say in civil court, or if you're in criminal court, you have the resources to maintain your innocence. That's it. If you're broke, you're probably going to end up in jail, even if you're innocent. Go watch on Netflix a documentary called The Khalif Browder Story. I told y'all about that more than once here. If you ain't got no money, you probably end up in jail. If you got money, you could pretty much get away with whatever you want. Not everything, but damn close if you got money. Because you got money, you can hire good lawyers, good attorneys, and keep you out of jail. And if you did something crazy and they got you, you'll get a lot less time than if you were a nobody who did something crazy. So see P. Diddy. Did he do something crazy? Probably. What he got? 50 months? He got about 4 years. For what he was charged with, did he won? He didn't win. He technically got found guilty, but he won. You get what I'm saying? Why? Because he has money. He can afford really, really good lawyers. That's the way it works. So if you don't have the money to pay really, really good lawyers and have like 5 attorneys with you when you're in court, don't do anything to get you in court. Period. That's not news to any of you. I hope not. Now, victims and survivors have expressed disappointment, saying the redactions appear to protect perpetrators more than it appears to protect them. I say they're posing for the cameras. The victims all got paid off. They all signed NDAs. That's why are they waiting for the Department of Justice to put out files when they could just say this person did something to me? Has anybody ever thought about that? All the victims who say they were abused by Epstein, okay, we know that. Why don't they just come out and just say, hey, this person, this person, this person, just say their names. Just do an interview and just say their names. Why won't they do it? They won't do it because they signed non-disclosure agreements and they got paid off, so they can't talk. So they're talking about they want the DOJ to put out the files because it's harming them more. It's protecting the perpetrators more than protecting them. Okay, expose the perpetrator. You are an eyeball witness to what happened to you. Why don't you just go out and say it? They can't say it because they took the money. Now they want the DOJ to do for them what they took money to not say. They want the DOJ to say what they won't say because they got paid to not say it. So they want to have their cake and eat it too. I say, no, be quiet and forever hold your peace and enjoy that money. That's what I say to the victims. And that's not insensitivity to the victims. You took the money. All right, they paid you to not say nothing. You took the money. All right, be quiet. They literally paid you to stop talking. Now you're talking. Be quiet. That's what I got to say to the victims. If you wanted to talk, you shouldn't have took the money. You took the money. So that's where we're at. So this survivor backlash, some say this is damaging because the DOJ has framed its actions as victim-centered. I say not really. It's not damaging. Again, you got paid. You could have talked all you wanted, just don't take the money. Now, the fight has forced transparency advocates to confront institutional resistance to full disclosure across administrations. I say, so what? Transparency advocate, what does that sound like to me? It sounds like somebody in Congress who might be about to get voted out. It sounds like some person on the internet who is mad about the files getting released against the Department of Justice. Good luck. That's all I got to say to that person. Good luck. I hope it works out for you. All right, I'm not putting any of my resources into your fight. I don't think you're gonna win. Now, this shows the Epstein case is not just about one president, but about systemic secrecy. I say, okay, I'm fair with calling it systemic secrecy. That's what it is. Yes, the Biden administration had the access to these files. They ain't put it out. Trump has had access, and they finally put it out. He signed a bill that turned into a law to put it out. All right, you got what you asked for. I think the biggest issue here, logically, for everybody who wants to see more or is disappointed with what got released, is you are under the assumption that there's something there that you don't even have proof that is there. You're looking for something that's not there, and if you don't see it, you assume you haven't been told everything. Well, maybe the thing that you think exists doesn't exist. It's possible, right? Public trust has eroded further, with many Americans concluding that the full truth about Epstein may never be released. Well, I'm glad you all finally arrived here. It only took you 5 years. It only took people 5 or 6 years to realize that the full truth of what happened with Epstein, you will never know. Same way we'll never know the full truth of the 2020 election. We'll never know the full truth of what happened with Charlie Kirk. No matter how much Candace Owens does her investigating, we will never know the full truth. There's a lot of things you'll never know the full truth of if you didn't see it with your own 2 eyes. And in many ways, it's designed to be like that. I say you should just come to terms with this reality. This is how it is in many aspects of life. If you didn't see it with your own 2 eyes, you can only go off of what you choose to believe. And with the way the world is set up now, with so many conflicting opinions and artificial intelligence and all this material on the internet created by people, and you never know who's telling the truth or who's not. If you didn't see it yourself, you are choosing to believe things. Anything you didn't see with your own 2 eyes, you're choosing to believe on this side, or choosing to believe on that side, or a third or fourth or fifth side of what happened. That's really what it comes down to. And if you can come to terms with that reality, then you can sleep at night. If you cannot come to terms with that reality, you're going to drive yourself crazy because you'll never know the actual truth because, again, you didn't see it yourself. Even if the government puts out some files, how do you know those are real files? How do you know that those are confirmed? How do you know they got them from Jeff Epstein's house? How do you know they didn't mess with the files and change up what was in it before they put it out to you to see? How do you know? Answer is you don't know. So you're often just going off of what you decide to believe. That's really what it is. Most of what we deal with in life and most of what you all think or what you quote unquote know are things that you decided to accept, not things you actually know. Things you actually know are things you saw with your own two eyes. If you didn't see it yourself with your own eyes when it happened, you are choosing to believe it. And a lot of you are choosing to believe things that, again, you have no reason to believe they're true. Again, Candace Owens' voice. All that said, everybody. Someone said when transparency laws fail this visibly, cynicism becomes a default reaction. So that's what I just said. Cynicism is feeling negative about the fact that the reality that people will show you what they want you to see and what they don't want you to see, they won't tell you. That's cynicism when you feel negative about it. Pragmatism is when you just say, I know this how it is, and I'm not mad about it. That's the only difference between cynicism and pragmatism in this context. I tend to look at things pragmatically. All right, this is just what it is. It is what it is, as some like to say. All that said, everybody, let's get to the comments. Let's see what y'all think about this. I told y'all what was going to happen with the Epstein files. It happened, and now here we are. So Don Parasheo says, if there was something against Trump, we know the Biden administration would have been released it. Yes, that's been said. Some people say, well, they couldn't release it because there was an ongoing investigation. I say if they wanted to release it, they would have. They would have found a way to leak it. Even if they technically couldn't do it, they would have found a way to leak it. So I agree with you, Don. People Unite said, I would take DNA in a minute. What does that mean? People Unite said, the files have all been released by many competent podcasters who care. It's all online. Yeah, but there's nothing there. I know it's out there, but there's nothing there. Because if there's anything there, then we would know about it. We'd be talking about it. Bass, what's going on over there on Facebook? Said this is Nurse J. Beasy from TikTok. All right, good stuff. Glad you came over on Facebook. Let's see. Over on Instagram, we got a comment from Indian Eyes said, here's my question. Why would they leave a paper trail with names on it for the Epstein file? Who's they? Who are you talking about? Indian Eyes said, I think they are going to keep on giving us the runaround on the Epstein files for the rest of our lives, never really revealing anything like they do with the JFK files. Yeah, you should change that think to you know. That's exactly what they're going to do. That's what the Department of Justice has been doing. So you mentioned JFK, which is a good reference point because that's the same thing they did with JFK. Same thing they did with the 2020 election. Same thing they're doing with Charlie Kirk. We'll never know the full truth. And what I am offering to all of you listening is that you come to accept that you will never know the full truth of anything you didn't see yourself if the people who do know the truth don't want you to know it. They won't tell you. Scott Young said, I'm sick of hearing about it. Well, we're not done because they got to release more files, and I'm sure people are going to be mad again. John said, ethically, Biden did the right thing. You're not allowed to release information with an ongoing investigation. Yeah, ethically, that sounds good, John 1. The issue is, if they really wanted to make Trump look bad, which they really tried in 2024, lest we forget those 4 court cases, they could have found a way to leak out that information and make it seem like it didn't come from them. They could have did it if they wanted to. I believe they didn't do anything because they didn't have anything. RD said, if it would have hurt Trump during the election, it would have gotten leaked. Yes, exactly. John said, Biden isn't in the files. Why are you asking about Biden? Asking about Trump, who's in them 1,000 times. I didn't ask anything about Biden. That's a non sequitur.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
She always said they got a bunch of nothing, just like I knew they would. Nothing. Well, there may only be a bunch of nothing, but there may be something. The thing is, DOJ doesn't want you to know about that something. They're going to give it to you. John 1 says, so now you're going to make excuses for PDF. Cut it out, John. You're straw manning, so congrats.
Strawberry cheesecake.
For getting the first slice of strawberry cheesecake today. That's a logical fallacy called the straw man when someone tries to argue against something that you did not. They take something that you did say, turn it into something that you did not say, and then try to argue against it. So John 1, congratulations on your cheesecake. It's 8:58 in the morning. You're eating cheesecake. All right, put the phone down.
Put the phone down. This is for my safety. Put the phone down. This is for my safety. Put the phone down. This is for my safety. Put the phone down.
Odin said, follow for such a level head. Thank you. Tara, thanks for the follow. Odin's beard said, "Man is spitting facts, and all you hear is orange man bad." Yeah, that's the normal thing over here. People just want to make it about Trump. And that's why everybody was excited about the Epstein files. They thought Trump was going to be in it. Now they came out, there's nothing in it. Now they're mad again because they didn't see Trump's name. James said they're protecting the PDF named Trump. Okay.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
All right, James, you get a appeal to ridicule too, because that was kind of funny.
Oh, I like your funny words, Magic Man.
John 1 said Trump and Epstein were friends until they argued about a real estate deal. Well, according to Trump, they were friends until Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were trying to poach females from his Mar-a-Lago. Either they were friends of his young female family members of Trump's friends, or they were young females who worked at Trump's resort. And Ghislaine and Epstein were trying to poach those girls, and Donald Trump told them to stop doing that, and they wouldn't stop, so he kicked them out. So he basically told Ghislaine and Jeff Epstein, "You can't come over my house anymore," according to Donald Trump. Sloopy said, "Bro, are you okay? Are you talking to me?" "Yes, I'm okay." John 1 says several of the victims came from Mar-a-Lago Spa. Yes, was what I just said. E8 said, because they're hiding it. Okay, what's your proof that they're hiding anything? Again, Candace Owens' voice. What's your proof? What's your evidence? Just Dom said, "I don't care. It doesn't stop life." Well, none of the stuff that we talk about here actually stop life. Because if it stopped life, then I wouldn't be live streaming on TikTok talking about it. Soupy said, "Because we've seen it, what do you mean? They accidentally published it, then censored it." What was in it? What's the it that you're referring to? Eddie said, "Because everything was redacted." Yeah, we know. Which I already said 12 times here today. They tell you what they want you to know. They don't care what you ask. John said, "You can also have a tremendous government cover-up." Yes, you could. There could be a tremendous cover-up. The problem is, how do you ever prove that there was a cover-up? That's the issue. How do we know it was a cover-up? How do we know they were telling the truth? You never know. That's the issue, is that we don't know. Brittany, thanks for the follow. Leah said, "Much of the content is unverified testimony." Yes, exactly. EA said, "Why are they scrambling to hide it if there's nothing to hide?" What are they hiding, though? You're assuming that there's something to hide, E8. So your comment here is assuming that something exists that you have no proof it exists.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Eddie said they only provided 2 gigs of 300 gig of photos. How do you know there's 300 gigs of photos? And even if they did only provide 2 gigs, assuming that your numbers are accurate here, the other 298 gigs may be things that would expose victims. So again, is it about you, not you personally, but any of you? Is it about you satisfying your interest and curiosity and information, or is it about protecting the victims? So if it's about protecting the victims, then you should take the DOJ's word that they're protecting the victims. That is our Department of Justice, after all. But now you don't believe them? You need to see it yourself? Jody says, "Seeking confirmation bias." That's pretty much. Swoopy says, "Sir, it is readily available." What do you mean? What is it? What is the it that you're referring to? I think we're talking about 2 different things. DL Emery said, "Can't give evidence of guilt if there is none." Yes, exactly. So people are claiming that there's evidence is being hidden, but you don't even know that there's evidence. So what is everybody talking about? John says, "Seems like Trump's entire government doesn't follow the law and does what they want to do." All right, you get another slice.
Strawberry cheesecake.
And John, Michael Jordan has a comment for you.
Stop it. Get some help.
You got some it sounds like some TDS coming out of you. Eddie Valentino said, "You're okay with that." Okay with what? And you're framing yourself as a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Echo said, "I'm going to call the Crime Stoppers." Yeah. You want to go call 911? Hey, they didn't release the Epstein files. Odin says, "Smooth destruction of emotions." Yes, I think I'm pretty good at that. Happiness said, "Call Ghostbusters." Yeah, Ghostbusters. That's what everybody should call. E8 said Trump ran on releasing the files, and Pam Bondi said it was on her desk and she was releasing it all. Well, she did release it all. It all being it all that they were going to give us. That's what she meant when she said it all. It didn't mean it all that you want. It means it all that they decide to give you. I will say this for the 14th time here today. The government does what they want to do. They don't do what we want them to do. They do what they want to do. So Trump ran on releasing the files. No, he didn't. All right, so that's a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Donald Trump ran on the economy and immigration. Those are the 2 biggest things he ran on. Epstein files was some small minor detail that he brought up because it got a few people excited. And even if you believe he ran on releasing Epstein files, he did it. He released more Epstein file material than any president in American history. If we want to play around with words, that is a fact. He released more Epstein files than anybody ever. Showtime Juice Box, thanks for the follow. Swoopy says, anything that can be released that would get you to stop defending him. Who am I defending? Strawman.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Who am I defending? Please explain to me who I'm defending here. All I'm telling you all is practically how things work. The Department of Justice chooses what to release, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump signed the bill to turn it into a law to make the Department of Justice release the files. John 1 said, we already know the victims. Yes, we know who the victims are. They've done press conferences, but they won't say who did what to them. That's the part that we're talking about, not that we don't know who they are. And again, putting the files out that says this happened to the victim, that re-traumatizes them, because let's say 300 million Americans now see a file and they see this person, victim number 3, and their name, let's say it's Lisa Johnson. She had such and such done to her by such and such person. Now, guess what everybody's going to go do? They're going to go call Lisa Johnson. Hey, what do you have to say about the fact that we now know that such and such famous person did something to you 15 years ago? What do you have to say about it? Now she is re-traumatized and re-exposed, and the whole world knows her name for being a victim of Epstein, when she might have just wanted to move on with the rest of her life and try to put that in her past. She did 3 years of therapy to try to get over that. Now all of you mofos off the internet want to go talk about her and say her name every day because you want her to go say something bad about this person who you're trying to witch hunt, because you never cared about the victim. What you cared about is making somebody look bad, using the victim as a cat's paw in order to get it done, which is the argument that the DOJ can make forever. And this is why we're never going to see those files, as I already explained to you all 5 times here today. Swoopy said, has he learned nothing from Myron Gaines? They won't pick you, dude. What the hell does Myron Gaines got to do with me? And who is they? What do you mean they won't pick? Who's they? I don't need to be picked. I do the picking, Swoopy do. So please try again.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
John 1 said, not all of them said that. Okay. I didn't say they did. Gemini, thanks for the follow. RDPSC, all they can do is try to impeach Bondi. Yeah, they can try. That's not going to work, though, because right now the Congress is Republican majority. They're not impeaching anybody. But Trump can get impeached in 2027. Bayou said, the U.S. district courts control the redactions, right? Well, I said the Department of Justice. Gemini said, DOJ is doing the redacting. Yeah, we know. RDP said national security equals covering his ties to Israel intelligence. Yes, exactly. So it spreads even wider. So you got the international stuff, you got national security, you got the victims, you got ongoing investigations. The DOJ can slow walk this forever until people stop talking about it, which is what's going to happen. Warren Booker says the reason you use Grok versus ChatGPT are just preference. For current events, I like Grok. For evergreen stuff, I like ChatGPT. But Grok is pretty fast on current event questions because Grok sources its material straight from X. And X is my favorite place as far as the internet town square for current events. John 1 said, I don't know who these people are. And I don't know what they're even talking about. Keep my name out. What do you mean? You left like 50 comments here. You want your name not to be in, but you keep leaving comments. Eddie said, why were the names of the co-conspirators email thread redacted? That's a question for the Department of Justice, not for me. Echo said, Congress won't do anything because most of them are guilty. Daddy? I don't know. You got to prove that. Yes.
Can we get the 1480 Brickle Park again?
No. We're not going to that park anymore. We'll go to a different one. I already told you. John 1 said, I'm just not a sheep. I'm in the wrong place. Obviously. That's a straw man. So you get another slice of strawberry cheesecake to take with you.
Strawberry cheesecake.
To say I'm not a sheep because you're meeting disagreement does not mean that the people who are disagreeing with you are sheep. And it doesn't mean that you're open-minded just because your opinion differs with somebody else's opinion. You have to come with a logical argument, not an emotional one. So you also get a
emotional, damn it.
Brittany said they are all in the club. If one goes down, they all do is not going to happen. Well, maybe, Brittany. A lot of people have made that argument. But again, what club and what proof or evidence do you have that they all did something wrong? This is the logical jump that a lot of people have made, that nobody has any evidence or proof that anyone other than the people who have been named did anything wrong. We don't have any evidence or any proof. And if you're saying someone did something wrong, assault of a sexual nature, that is a crime, which means it must be adjudicated in court. It means somebody has to go to court and face trial for it. Unless someone is going to court and face trial and been convicted, we have no evidence and no proof, because that's the only place real evidence can be presented. And the only way you can get proof is if someone is found guilty. Someone saying it is not evidence or proof. Actually, it's evidence, but it's not proof. Jeff said, nice job, sir. Thank you. Echo said, where are the tappers? Yeah, we're at 85,000 likes, folks. Can we get to 100K, please? John One said he's unfit for the office of president. All right, put the phone down.
Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down!
Maxine Cardin said, good morning from Southeast Texas. Good morning. Leah, thank you for the lightning bolts. John said, don't you want to know what's going on with the health of the president? John 1, what are you talking about?
Stop it. Get some help.
Take the advice of Michael Jordan. Prince Maddie said, Crockett for Senate. I did a live on that last week. Go watch the replays on my YouTube channel. Joe D said, that was so sad. What are you referring to? What was said? Texas all the way said, you're exactly correct. They will break you money-wise in court. Yeah, pretty much. Sheila said, they did say that Trump was never there, but nobody cares about that. Well, no, nobody cares about that. People are trying to make Trump look bad because a lot of people have Trump derangement syndrome, and he is technically the president. Not technically, but he is the president until 2028. So Janet said, thank you. That's what I keep saying. Yes, this is what I've been saying for months. Wifey Tip said all they had to do was say the names, but none of them want to let go of the money. Well, they got paid before they had a chance to say the names, and they know they better not say anything because then they got to get the money back. And money talks. Texas said, what if they do disclose it even though they were paid and signed? Then they got to give the money back. They'll get sued to give back that money. And they all know they ain't dumb. Everybody knows how to count. Bo Smith said, you got chickens, bro. I don't have chickens. I'm in Miami. It's chickens everywhere in Miami. A lot of people don't know that. It's wild. There are a whole bunch of wild chickens in Miami. So I got the window open. So chickens are pretty loud, for those of you who don't know. Ray said, had to leave. Great comment. Thank you. A few more minutes here, folks, then we'll wrap this up. Rio said, bro got nature's alarm. You don't even notice it after a while. You don't. I just tune it out. I don't even notice the sound. Midget Passion said, one thing I'll say for Candace is why hasn't the defense saw her out? What defense? What are you talking about? Duke said, that doesn't mean we shouldn't pursue. Okay, pursue if you wish. And who are you referring to when you say we? All right, leave me out of it. You pursue. I'll watch you. Mike said, Dre would be a great X-Files character. I never watched the X-Files. What does that mean? Candy said, you are so smart and full of common sense. So thank you. I agree with you. Prince Maddie, I did a live on not Candace, Jasmine Crockett last week. Claymore said, we all know the truth, but can't believe it. If you don't know your history, you are likely to repeat. What's the truth that we know? What are you referring to? Flowers and Shade said, people making comments about the Epstein files on free Wi-Fi. There you go. Sheila, thanks for the share. Midnight said, if there were anything implicated, they would have used it the first time he got arrested and the second. You talking about Epstein? Yeah, so he had the whole cake at this point. No, I think he only got 3 slices. There's still a few left. Depends on how thinly you slice the cake. Candy, thanks for the follow. And he said, that was worth all my taps. Oh, well. And he said the phone thing. Amy Lynn said, Whitney Webb has a lot of info on this and interviews with the victims. Yeah, but see, the victims still can't say any names. You can interview them all day. They know what they can and can't say. Again, they know how to count. Founder said everything was selectively released to paint the Democrats in a bad light. That's why we see, I don't know what you mean by that. Ashley Mack, good morning. Thank you. Heck said, I think they're covering for Prince Andrew. Well, he already got exposed. Ashley Mack said, Arkansas state troopers protected Clinton for years, so we all knew he was all over the photos. What is that? What's the connection between those 2 points? They said John had the whole cheesecake. And he moved on just in time. Echo said, I'm getting full from all the cheesecakes. Yes. Ashley said, what are your thoughts on Pan B? I mean, she's doing what she's supposed to do. When you go into the cabinet of a president, you do serve at the pleasure. Right? You serve at the pleasure means we serve at the pleasure of the boss. And Trump is the boss. So she has to do what Trump wants her to do. If she goes against that, she gets fired. Now, I think she wants to keep her job. So this is what happens when you take a job in a place like that, is that you got to do what the boss wants you to do. So I can't really criticize her that much for anything. Even if I had a criticism, I don't really have one. She's doing what Trump wants her to do. What would you do in that position? If you want to keep the job, you got to follow what he wants, while at the same time towing the line and making it look like you're just quote unquote following the law. But the game is the game. Nana said Democrats don't like what they're releasing and will never be satisfied. Well, they'll be satisfied if Trump's name is in it. Claymore said, we already know the truth. The law protects the rich. Well, lawyers protect the rich, and the rich can afford lawyers. So it's not that the law protects them. The law protects anybody who can afford to utilize the law to its fullest extent. And utilizing the law to its fullest extent means you got to have really good connected lawyers. So people with a lot of money can hire really good connected lawyers. They can use the law to its fullest extent, and that's how you stay protected. So you're directionally correct, but there's a step in there that's missing. Beeson, thanks for the share. Echo said, damn, another strawberry cheesecake. We have a factory full of cheesecake today. Yes. Texas all the way said, I'm wondering about Pam Bondi. Is she doing all she can do? She's doing all she should do, not all she can do, all she should do, because she works for Donald Trump. And it is a job. And just like all of you, Pam Bondi wants to keep her job. So she got to do what she got to do. And if you ever worked at a job and you did stuff you didn't want to do because you wanted to keep the job? Okay, so what's the difference? Pam Bondi is a working woman. She got to do her job just like everybody else. Flowers and Shade said, most people talking about the Epstein files. Yeah, I saw that. When Founder said, there's a strategy here by the government to appease and protect who they want to. The current government, Founders, 1977, you're leaving something out there. The government, period, does that. The government appeases and protects who they want to. It's always been like that. That's not new. It's been like that for 100 years. So don't make it about this current administration as if this is some brand new thing, because it is not. Texas said, I'm sure there are videos or photos, but we'll never see those. Yes, the videos and photos that would not implicate, but expose the victims. Remember, the key entity in this whole situation are the victims. It is not the citizens who want to know what happened. It's not the politicians. It's the victims. Let's remember what this is all about. It's about protecting the victims. And you can just tell by the conversation that's happening here in these comments, hardly anybody's talking about the victims. Everybody's talking about the files and the information in the government and who's being protected and what won't get released, and Trump and Biden and all this stuff. The victims are the main entity here. Nobody's talking about it, which is proof of my exact point. Nobody cares about the victims. People just care about trying to expose somebody who you don't like politically. And they said, bro, there's a picture with Epstein with the check with Trump's name in the files. So if there's a picture of Epstein with Trump, there's a picture of Epstein and Trump standing next to each other. There's video of them standing next to each other. That doesn't prove anything. That's not a crime. Standing next to a criminal does not make you a criminal. That's called guilt by association. Anthony said Trump was also notoriously hanging out with naked 14-year-olds that accused him of wrongdoing. Accused him? Okay. Anthony, I could get a 14-year-old to accuse you of wrongdoing today. Does that mean you did it? I think you would probably say let's go to court and prove it. If you accuse someone of assault of a sexual nature, you must prove it in court. Criminal court. Donald Trump has never gone to criminal court for that charge. Suzanne said, common sense is something most lack, unfortunately. Well, the issue with common sense, Suzanne, is people usually say that when they see people not understanding something that they understand. So I tend to stay away from that phrase. I get what you mean, but I don't really like that phrase because people use common sense when they know something, but they think other people don't know it. And so it's a very subjective term. Anthony said this is open source and common knowledge. That's another one. Just going along with common sense is common knowledge. Everybody knows about it, as if that means something's wrong with the person who doesn't, quote unquote, know the thing that you claim to know. Again, accusing someone of assault of a sexual nature is a crime. You must prove it in court. It must be adjudicated in court. Show me the court file that's common knowledge of Donald Trump being accused of this in court and going to court and standing trial for it. Show me that, since it's open source. Someone saying something, anything anybody says is open source. That doesn't prove anything. So what you're saying, it sounds like it's something smart, but it actually doesn't make any sense.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Linda said, do I think Ilhan Omar will be deported? No. WLS said Bondi will go to jail. No, she won't. And they said, you want me to stop because I'm spitting. You're not saying anything. I just responded. I just read all your comments. Your comments didn't make any logical sense. Keep going. I don't want you to stop. I want you to keep going. Expose yourself. We still got more slices of strawberry cheesecake to give out here. So please make yourself the next contestant. Marquita, thank you for the gifts. The TikTok, the you're awesome. Love you so much. The I'm ready and the lightning bolt. Yes, we got 100K likes. Thank you, everybody. Suzanne Freeman said, that's true. Never thought of it that way. Thank you. You're welcome. That's why I don't like using those terms. I don't use terms like common knowledge, common sense, because again, people usually say that when they just disagree with something that somebody else is saying. But as they say, common sense isn't so common. But we got to define what common sense is. I don't think we have a clear, accepted, general definition of what's common sense. Anthony said he did a coup and got away with it. He is above the law, bro. Okay. Anthony, you saying that does not make it true. What if I said the same thing about you? Does that mean it's true? Fine Apple said that part. Does anything to bash Trump like the rest of the government is innocent? Yeah, exactly. Barb said, I think Anthony is a relative of Big Sam's. Yeah, I don't think I've seen him around in a while. Anthony said, black conservative moment, shitty logic. Are you talking about you? Who are you talking about? Because what we're talking about here today has nothing to do with any side politically, but what we're talking about here today is what logically makes sense. You didn't make any logical arguments. I read every comment that you posted, and none of them made any logical sense. If you can do better than me, then you should start your own live stream. But here you are. So you tell me. Put the phone down.
Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down!
All that said, everybody, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. We're usually done by about 9:15. We're at 9:20. I will be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. Yeah, so we will be here tomorrow, Christmas Eve. Don't know what the topic is going to be. We might talk about, no, I'm not even going to say what we're going to talk about. We'll see. I'll be back here tomorrow. I do got a couple topics we're waiting on getting into. We will be off on Christmas Day. We'll be off on Thursday. We'll be back on Friday. So tomorrow we'll be here, off on Thursday, back on Friday. Tara Mills said, you keep changing the end time. Well, usually I would go to 10. Then I said we're going to shorten it up. So I said this last week. So usually we're done by between 9:15 and 9:30. I'll aim for 9:15. Sometimes I go a little bit over if the comments are any good. Girly Samurai said, I pulled the actual case against Epstein. I don't get the fascination. Miami Herald did the investigation, led to his indictment in articles. Trump was a whistleblower. Yeah, I know. They were looking at this guy going back like 15 years, Epstein, before he got the big case that he ended up, losing his life, whatever you want to call what happened to him. Texas said, do you think anything will happen to Barack or Hillary Clinton? No. Maxine said, have a great day. Merry Christmas. So thank you. Carl said, I had to give it to the Democrats on one thing. They made sure TDS stuck. Just said, well, they absolutely did. And that's a real thing. So TDS actually, I think, was invented by the people on the MAGA side to make fun of people who didn't like Donald Trump. But it is a real thing. A lot of people do have TDS. It's a form of cognitive dissonance is what it actually is. But anyway, I will see everybody tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Shout out to everybody who's already on vacation. December 23rd. This is usually the last work day for most of you. So shout out to everybody on vacation. Shout out to everybody who has the rest of the year off. Write down your goals for 2026 and get to work on them right now. And everybody have a great day. I will see you all tomorrow. Work on your game.
Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down! This is for my safety. Put the phone down!